Hello, everyone. Today we will present to you the role of attachment style in romantic relationship satisfaction. This project is presented to you by Julia, Sarah, Easton, and Elodie.
Hey everyone, so I want to start with a question. Have you ever been in a relationship where one person always needed reassurance and the other kept pulling away? Or maybe you've seen a couple that just seems effortlessly close while another couple is always fighting over the same things over and over again. The answer to why this happens might have less to do with how compatible two people are and more to do with something that was shaped way before the relationship even started. So, what we are looking at today is the role of attachment style in romantic relationships satisfaction. Basically, how the way you were raised to connect with people affects how you connect with your partner. The whole framework comes from a guy named John Bowlby, a British psychiatrist who developed attachment theory. His idea was pretty simple, but really powerful. He said humans are born with an innate drive to form emotional bonds with their caregivers, and that those early experiences create what he called internal working models. Think of them like a mental blueprints that teach you whether people are trustworthy, whether you are worthy of love, and how close you should let people get. The key thing is those blueprints do not stay in childhood, they follow you into every relationship you've had as an adult. Then in the 1980s, two psychologists named Cindy Hazan and Philip Shaver took Bowlby's work and applied it directly to romantic relationships. They argue that the bond between romantic partners works through the same biological processes as the bond between a baby and their parent. So basically, the way you attach to your mom or dad is the same system running in the background when you fall in love. From all of this research, three main attachment styles were identified. You have secure attachment, where people trust their partners, communicate openly, and feel comfortable with closeness. You have anxious attachment, where people crave a lot of reassurance and constantly worry that their partner doesn't love them as much as they love their partner. And then you have, last but not least, avoidant attachment, where people value independence so much that they pull back whenever things start to feel emotionally intense in a way. So today we're going to walk through what the research says about how these three styles affect relationship satisfaction, what happens when certain styles are put together, and most importantly, what can actually be done about it. Thank you.
The attachment theory was originally developed by a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby in order to explain how early bonds formed between infant and parents shape emotional development and interpersonal behavior. The theory claims that humans are born with an innate drive to form emotional bonds with primary caregivers for survival. Cindy Azen and Philip Shaver extended this theory to romantic relationships. They propose that adult romantic relationships reflect many of the same attachment processes observed in early caregiver bonds. They argue that the bond between adult romantic partners function through the same biological process as the bond formed between an infant and a parent. In the context of our project, this signifies that a partner act as a stable foundation that gives an individual the security and confidence needed to pursue their goals while also serving as the primary source of emotional support. It is important for the audience to know that there is three primary attachment style. The first one being secure attachment. It is characterized by a positive self-view and that of others. These individuals tend to trust their partners, communicate their needs, and feel comfortable both sharing and receiving support. They're comfortable with intimacy and often do not fear abandonment. They tend to have the highest level of relationship satisfaction. Then there is anxious attachment. It is characterized by a deep desire for high levels of closeness and frequent validation and reassurance from their partners. These individuals often worry that their partners does not love them as much as they love their partners, leading to emotional amplified behaviors such as clinginess in order to receive attention. Finally, there is avoidant attachment. It is characterized by a high value on independence and a tendency to view intimacy as a threat to freedom. These individuals often feel uncomfortable relying on others or expressing vulnerability. They tend to manage their own problems independently rather than seeking emotional support from their partners. They tend to they tend to withdraw during moments of conflict, of emotional intensity. While they may still desire a relationship, They may pull away when the relationship becomes too emotionally demanding, and protect themselves from potential rejection by limiting closeness. One of the research we used for our project was conducted by Ayob Ayenyu. His study was based in Addis Ababa Administrative City in Ethiopia. His sample were adult heterosexual couples between the age of 26 to 40 years old. They made 71.9% of the sample, while people from the age of 41 to 60 years old made 18.5% of the sample. The research method used in this study are demographic questionnaire and two structured questionnaires. The first questionnaire contains 9 items that elicit personal information from each respondent, while the second one includes experience in close relationship revised to collect data on adult attachment experience, and the Rahim Organizational Conflict Inventory to make inventory on how respondents resolve conflict with their partners. Results showed that when the level of education gets higher, like having a degree, people attachment style became more of a secure type. It means that lower scores in attachment anxiety and lower scores in attachment avoidance showed a secure attachment style. Attachment anxiety and attachment avoidance had a significant negative relationships with relationship satisfaction. Higher self-reported scores of attachment avoidance and higher self-reported scores of attachment anxiety was associated with lower relationship satisfaction in couples. For our study, we used the relationship assessment scale created by Susan Endrich in 1988. Through this survey, we were able to gather information about people's romantic satisfaction in their relationship. Then we used the second survey named the Attachment Style Questionnaire, also known as the ASQSF. Our sample consisted of young adults between the age of 18 to 21 years old who were in a relationship. Then we attempt to approximate each individual's attachment style through the attachment style questionnaire based on their answers in the relationship assessment scale survey. With the data collected, we were right to believe our hypothesis. For example, 2 of the questions on our survey were, how well does your partner meet your need? Which one person answered one, and one being very poor. And how many problems are there in your relationship? Which the same person answered five being very high. With this data, we can only assume that this person is very avoidant because he or she will withdraw during moments of conflict, and they will try to manage their own problems independently. On the other end, an anxious or insecure person answered 3 on both of these questions. With these data, we can only assume that this person will seek reassurance and deep level of closeness with their partners, which an avoidant person won't be able to provide.
Research on attachment styles demonstrate that romantic relationship satisfaction is strongly influenced by emotional communication, trust, reassurance, conflict management, and emotional availability. Studies reviewed in this project found that secure attachment is associated with healthier communication patterns, greater emotional well-being, and higher relationship satisfaction. While anxious and avoidant attachment styles are associated with insecurity, conflict escalation, emotional withdrawal, and lower relationship satisfaction. Based on these findings, several important areas can be done in order to improve romantic relationship functioning and long-term emotional well-being. Research suggests that communication patterns are heavily influenced by attachment styles. Individuals with anxious attachment may seek reassurance in emotionally intense ways, while avoidant individuals may emotionally distance themselves during conflict. Because of this, improving communication becomes one of the most important ways to strengthen relationship satisfaction. Couples benefit from active listening, calm conflict, discussion, and direct emotional expression rather than a criticism or withdrawal. One major issue identified in the research is that many people do not recognize how attachment styles influence their relationship. Awareness is important because individuals who understand their attachment patterns are often better able to recognize unhealthy behaviors and improve emotional interactions. Education and self-reflection can therefore help couples create more stable and supportive relationships. Research repeatedly demonstrates that secure attachment contributes to healthier romantic relationships and stronger emotional well-being. Because of this, emotional security and trust are essential areas of focus. Stability, reassurance, and consistency help individuals feel emotionally safe, which improves relationship satisfaction over time. The research also suggests that relationship satisfaction is not influenced only by personality or attachment style. External stressors, including financial pressure and emotional stress, can increase conflict and insecurity within relationships. As a result, helping couples manage stress effectively can improve emotional stability and relationship functioning. Attachment theory explains that the emotional bonds formed during childhood help shape future relationship behaviors. This means that healthy parenting and emotional support during early development may contribute to more secure attachment patterns later in life. Supporting children emotionally today can positively influence their future relationship as adults.
Now to discuss some of the limitations we faced while conducting this study. Although our research provided valuable insight into the relationship between attachment styles and romantic relationship satisfaction, it's important to recognize several limitations within the study. Our group examined how attachment styles influence romantic relationships using two psychological questionnaires: the Relationship Assessment Scale, or RAS, and the Attachment Style Questionnaire, short form, also known as the ASQSF. The RAS allowed us to measure overall relationship satisfaction, while the ASQSF helped us identify attachment tendencies such as secure, anxious, and avoidant attachment. In other words, attachment styles. Even though our findings supported much of the existing psychological research on attachment theory, there were still limitations related to our participants, research methods, and the complexity of human relationships. One major limitation of our research was the relatively small participant sample. For the assignment, we were instructed to collect data from approximately 15 to 20 participants. While this allowed us to conduct a manageable study within the time frame of the project, it also limited the overall reliability and generalizability of our findings. With such a small sample size, the responses might not fully represent the broader population. In addition, many of the participants shared similar age group, which meant that they more than likely shared similar educational backgrounds or social environments. This is important because relationship experiences can vary greatly depending on factors such as age, culture, financial background, life experience. For example, a university student in a short term relationship may experience emotional attachment very, very differently than from a married couple who've been together for many years. So, as a result, although our findings supported existing research on attachment theory, they cannot be fully generalized to all individuals or relationship experiences. So, another limitation of our study involves the use of self report questionnaires. The relationship assessment scale measured factors such as relationship satisfaction, emotional fulfillment, and relationship quality, while the ASQSF measured attachment related behaviors and emotional tendencies. However, both questionnaires relied entirely on participants honestly evaluating themselves and their relationship. This can obviously create problems because individuals are not always fully objective or fully self aware when describing emotional experiences or their emotional experiences. Some participants might have exaggerated their relationship satisfaction, minimized their insecurities, or answered emotionally depending on their present mood or current mood, or even based off like recent relationship experiences. For example, someone who recently experienced a conflict with their partner may respond much more negatively than they usually would. So, because of this, survey responses might not perfectly reflect actual relationship behaviors. A third limitation is that our study only collected data at one specific moment in time. So we distributed questionnaires once, meaning that we were only able to capture a certain time frame or like a snapshot of participants' relationships and their emotional states. This is important because romantic relationships are constantly evolving over time. Attachment styles and relationship satisfaction can change because of communication, conflict, maybe there's trust building, emotional growth, even a major life experience. So, for example, an individual with an anxious attachment may gradually become more secure in a healthy relationship, while someone who was originally, say, secure might develop insecurity after repeated betrayal or being put through emotional distress. So, since our study didn't follow participants long term, we were unable to observe how these emotional patterns might change throughout relationships. Although the RAS and the ASQSF are validated psychological questionnaires that are commonly used in social psychology research, they still have their limitations. The RAS measures general relationship satisfaction, but it doesn't fully explain why relationship problems exist or how emotional dynamics develop between partners. Similarly, the ASQSF identifies attachment styles such as secure, anxious, and avoidant attachment, but it can't fully capture the complexity of human emotions, the interpersonal relationships, right? Human relationships are influenced by many emotional and situational factors that can't always be reduced to a numerical survey or a numerical survey response. As a result, while these questionnaires were particularly helpful for identifying certain patterns, they can't completely explain every single emotional behavior within a romantic relationship. Another important limitation is that our study couldn't fully measure many external variables that might influence relationship satisfaction. So, factors like financial stress, mental health struggles, trauma, family issues, school pressure, work stress, and cultural background, they can all significantly affect relationship. So, for example, even a securely attached individual might struggle in a relationship when they're experiencing high levels of financial or emotional stress. At the same time, insecurely attached individuals might experience a healthy relationship when they're receiving strong emotional support from their partner. So, this demonstrates that attachment style is only one factor influencing romantic relationships. Human relationships are extremely complex, right? They're shaped by both psychological and environmental influences. Now, despite these limitations, our research still contributes valuable insight into attachment theory and romantic relationships. So, future research could continue to build on what we found in several important ways. Studies could use larger participant samples, examine relationships over long periods of time, include more cultural diversity, explore the impact of technology and social media, and combine questionnaires with interviews or observations. These improvements would allow researchers to gain a deeper and more accurate understanding of how attachment styles influence romantic relationships. So, one important direction for future research concerning our topic would be increasing participant diversity and sample size. Future studies can include participants from different age groups, cultures, relationship statuses, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Researchers could compare married couples, dating couples, and long term partners from different societies and life experiences. This would help create findings that are more representative of the population as a whole and improve the reliability of future research conclusions. In the future, researchers can also conduct longitudinal studies. So, studies that follow participants over a long period of time or longer periods of time. This would allow researchers to examine how attachment styles evolve throughout relationships and how major life experiences influence emotional security and relationship satisfaction. Long term studies could also help answer important questions, such as whether insecure attachment causes relationship dissatisfaction or whether unhealthy relationships gradually create emotional insecurity over time. This would provide a far deeper understanding of emotional development within romantic relationships. Another important area for future research involves social media and technology. Modern relationships are increasingly shaped by texting, social media, dating apps, and online communication. So these platforms might intensify attachment related behaviors such as jealousy, reassurance seeking, emotional dependence, or even emotional withdrawal. For example, anxiously attached individuals might become distressed when messages are being ignored or taking too long to be answered, while avoidantly attached individuals might use digital communication to avoid emotional intimacy. So, future research could also improve by combining questionnaires with more qualitative research methods, such as interviews, observational studies, or even therapist evaluations. Although surveys provide useful statistical information, interviews may reveal emotional experiences and relationship dynamics that a questionnaire just simply can't. For example, interviews can provide deeper insight into communication patterns, emotional conflict, trust issues, and even personal experiences that influence an individual's attachment behaviors. So, combining multiple research methods could create a more complete and detailed understanding of romantic relationships as a whole. In the future, research could involve therapeutic interventions that are designed to improve insecure attachment patterns. So, researchers could compare methods such as couples counseling, attachment based therapy, and communication training to determine which approaches are most effective in improving emotional regulation, communication, and relationship satisfaction. This research could help therapists better support couples that are experiencing emotional insecurity or even conflict.
Thank you so much for listening, and here's our reference page.